Welcome to Robert Craig's 7th in a series of virtual tastings, hosted by Elton Slone, with special guests Rachel Miller and Director of Hospitality Jami Castro. This tasting features It's Miller Time, with a 2013 Affinity Cabernet Sauvignon, the 2013 Howl Mountain Zinfandel from Sears Vineyard, and the 2013 Howl Mountain Estate Cabernet Sauvignon. We hope you enjoy the tasting. If you'd like to taste alongside Elton, these wines are available on our website. Also check video details below for links to future live virtual tastings.
Welcome aboard, everyone.
Hello. Cheers. Oh my goodness.
We'll give everybody a minute. We'll give everybody a minute to come on, but let me see here. There we go. Wow, we already have 30 rocking in there. Fantastic. Hello, everybody, and happy Friday. We're gonna have a nice group of people rolling in here, and it is such a pleasure to have everybody coming on with us today. Two of the great ladies of all the wine business. We're celebrating today with the present and future. Jami Castro, at least the future is until you try and get wine club run this time, and then it's over with. And Rachel Miller, and then we have Christian Mullen, the estate manager here at Robert Craig Winery down below. All right, so I'll give it until 3:01, and then we'll start. Now, everybody is, as usual, man, everybody's right on time for this. Is terrific. As usual, the chat is disabled because there's no way I can get to that, but Christian is taking questions under Q&A, and if your question passes his unbelievable filter, we'll get to that momentarily. So first things first, here we are. It's, I think about what's going on in the Napa Valley right now, and even with all of this going on, I think about 9/11 and how everybody is with their families, and thinking about our first responders and all the people, including Randy Dunn and his bulldozer boys, who saved us, our winery, and everybody in Angwin and Pope Valley practically from the fires that raged. So first, I'm going to give a little toast to the first responders and our all of the police and the people that are keeping us safe here in the valley and from 9/11. So a little toast to that.
Cheers.
With all the crap that's going on, I'm not going to dwell too much on the negative stuff because we need to have a Friday afternoon where we enjoy some wine. And we brought Rachel out because we knew if Rachel Miller came over, it's Miller time. That I knew the 13s are some of her favorite wines, so we wanted to do those and kind of get an update on Rach, who's still part of the Robert Craig family, and have you all hopefully get to meet Jami Castro in this. So I'm very happy we have another sold out show in the house. And I just want to say a thank you to all of our club members here. Jami is in the middle of battling with the warehouse people, the shipping people that come back and say, wait, it's COVID, you can't do that. I think about all the times Rachel did the same thing. So the only thing we can do as their manager is to provide them lots of free alcohol and some encouragement, because at Robert Craig, praise is your raise. So I always say, good job, good job.
Good job.
And to all of our clubbers, to the 7-timers, to Laurelyn and David Kane, Courtney Kane, the Dicklers, Doug and Ellen, Robert Ludwig, to Jonathan Van Outen and Joy Stein. Love you guys. I cannot believe you've been through all 7, and almost everyone with Deborah Weir. Deborah, I hope all is well in North Carolina. The Curleys, Brendan Steve McCullough, David Leahy, Dennis DiTullio. Dennis, it's great to have you back. Brad Gray, the McQuarries. Oh my gosh. Mary Bellinoti Watson and Skip. Hopefully you're driving around in that new car. And then Andy and Tammy Nichols. Andy, when you guys get this on YouTube, man, he's up there, he's up north doing some sort of damn wine club release himself. But a long time wine club member of ours. So all of you guys, Manny, Jeff and Brooke Vale, I love you guys. Kelly Gash, Manny Medina. We have some Miami in the house. We're going to see Ed and Annie here in the tasting room after this is over. So I have a feeling that my liver is going to need a massage tomorrow morning. Pete and Igda in Virginia, great to see you guys on. Mark Hogenboom, Philip McGrath, Peter Brusick, and Keith Harrington, the KC Wine Crew, all of you guys. Thank you so much. We so appreciate your support. And that is it for the preamble. It's time for us to get down to business because we have a short time. But Rachel, I wanted to do something when Jami and I spoke. After a while, it gets harder to come up with wine themes, and 13s, library wines are something that I'm averse to having a theme on for a tasting, particularly in particular for a nice price, because we always have more demand than supply. And I think, as if any of you know Rachel and I, during our term that we worked together for 16 years, we very occasionally would battle over my selling out too much of the library wine too soon.
Exactly.
So Rachel, this is your time we have some 13 here for you to drink. And for you guys that are on today, there's going to be 1 week where you can buy the wine at this price, and then it all is going to be shut down. So I hope you guys get the rest of it here. But 13 for us at Robert Craig was a very special year. It was the year that we decided, I said, hey, I don't want to be buying all of this, fruit in the Napa Valley. Was at an incredible premium. There was huge growth in the valley. A lot of vineyards were being planted, and all of this fruit that we used to buy for $5,000 and $6,000 a ton, all of a sudden in 2012 started to go to $9,000 and $10,000 a ton, which as a winery, that means you go from being able to sell a bottle for $60 retail at $6,000 a ton and make a profit to suddenly need to sell it for $90 or $100 a bottle. And a lot of the fruit that we had coming in, I was like, well, this isn't even, this is not even nearly the quality that we have on our own Affinity Vineyard. So I decided that we will go ahead and make Affinity an estate-grown, estate-bottled wine, and that's why the price ticked up a little bit in that year, but it's stayed the same ever since. It's still one of the great bargain collectibles of California. And then we're going to go to 13 Black Sears Vineyard Zinfandel from our next door neighbors, who, Ashley, if you're on here, I don't want that damn fruit. No, that's a terrible joke for 2020. But the Black Sears Inn is one of the great Zinfandel vineyards in all of the world, and we're lucky. I always like to show that wine when we're doing library, because I know with Rachel, with Jami, when we host tasting events, in particular Valentine's Day, which we couldn't have this year because of COVID, we would always open up these wines and people would immediately buy us out of Zinfandel because they just could not believe how well that wine showed after 10 years in the bottle. And then we're going to finish with my personal favorite wine, the child that I would say first out of the raging waters of all of our wine children, and that is the Howl Mountain Estate Cabernet. So without further ado, I suggest you crack Affinity. We'll talk about it. Our first wine is going to be Affinity. It's Friday. We're all incredibly thirsty. So let's crack into a little bit of Affinity, and I love it. Rachel has to get the wine while I introduce. So Affinity is our, obviously it says right on the front label that the definition of Affinity is the perfect union of components sharing a special origin. And it's because it's always all 5 of the Bordeaux 5. And the wine is it's our least expensive wine to produce because it does not require the $25,000 an acre farming that are required now on Howl Mountain and Mount Veeder. I thought maybe I was exaggerating before at 20,000, but now I'm getting these bills, and Kirsten has informed me that we have eclipsed the $25,000 an acre mark. And Affinity, though, is still very expensive to farm. It's grown on hillside. Rachel was correct in correcting me that it is alluvial, but it is also volcanic soil that is from the eruption of the Sierras that has created the east side of the Napa Valley. It's the start of the Vaca Range, or in the Napa Valley, it's at the beginning of the Vaca Range. So you have Howl Mountain up north and Mount St. Helena at the Palisades, and As you go down south, you hit Pritchard Hill and you hit Affinity. And all of these wines have a very similar character to me. They have these great high notes, this beautiful tension. The Affinity is a massive, stiff Cabernet Sauvignon, but when you blend it with the Merlot, the Cabernet Franc, the Petit Verdot, the Malbec, what you get is this glorious wine. And I just can't believe how young this wine is showing as we get started. Oh my goodness. I think we're going to get all the way through that tonight. So
That's nice.
So by way of introduction, many of you know, I know Lisa and Patrick Stam are on tonight, and some of Rachel's longtime fans. I'm so glad to have everybody. I thought, for those of you who didn't know Rachel, when I started at Robert Craig and Jami, believe me, you'll get your introduction in a minute. For those of you that don't know Rachel, I started at Craig in 2004 and came in to do an informal interview, what I thought was an informal interview in 2003 in the wintertime. And Bob had, called me on the way home to offer a job, but I came in and met some very low energy people in the tasting room. And there was a spiky haired woman racing around, claiming every wine was great. I'm like, well, I have a fireball here, and it is Rachel Miller. So Rachel, I will say, it is great to see you here.
Man.
I cannot tell you, without Rachel,
Cheers.
Robert Craig Winery would not be here, and that is not an understatement.
Aw, I love
So let me give our viewers, I'm going to do a little share screen here to give you a little taste. First of all, this is our Howl Mountain home, which I always like to show you a shot of what it looks like on a beautiful clear day, just before the fires. Look at that. That's looking south, straight out over Mount Veeder, just to the left of the winery there. You can see Larry Turley's vineyard right next to us on the right-hand side of your picture. And then just beyond that is Black Sears. To our left is Outpost. And dead ahead is O'Shaughnessy and Chimarosa. Here is coming up the lane on a beautiful summer day, right as the fruit is just getting ready to start going into veraison. Look at those blue skies. That's Robert's Block on your right-hand side, the Merlot on your left. And now this. So this was when we had the red flag warning on Monday. Check this out. That is some of the hottest, driest air. Fortunately, we don't have the crazy smoke that other vineyards have had, but this vintage, I have to tell you, has been a challenge like no other. So far, the fruit is still clean. It was in the right place when we got the smoke, but it's hard to describe what's going on with this. This was taken in my car at 1 p.m. yesterday, heading back into Sausalito. So you can see it's night there in Mill Valley. Everybody has their lights on. Crazy smoke down south. So if you're actually watching this and you don't have a scuba tank and a snorkel on, you are outdoing us. It has been a bitch of a harvest and not having power, but we're making it, and the quality of everything coming in looks great. So let's get to Rachel. There she is. This is on the roof of the Roosevelt Hotel in Los Angeles, where if you haven't come to do our event there, you're truly missing out on something special. There is a shot of Rachel running club that Jami is dealing with that right now. I think that's part vodka, part coffee in the coffee cup. If I know Raquel, that might be Cabernet at 8 o'clock in the morning in that cup. Jami, do you just recognize that photo? And here we are. You can see Rachel. Oh my gosh! I mean, this was a good crew at Craig. When you're wearing the sombrero, that means it's your birthday at Robert Craig. So at this time, Bob Craig would never miss a shot of tequila, and we're doing shots at Compadres, which unfortunately closed. You can see Rachel front and center. Here we are, one of the last birthday dinners that we were able to have with Bob before he retired. And we're drinking a great bottle of wine. That's Jeff Roman there. He's given himself bunny ears. And Rachel and Kirsten and Lynn Craig who is
Oh, look at
right
that.
now. So Lynn, if you're on, we love you. It's so good to see you. But some really nice wines at Zuzu. Here we are at French Laundry. You can see Rachel just to the lower right of your picture. Rachel, you're looking very nice there. And unfortunately, Patrick and Lisa, I caught you in that crazy light. But if you ever have the opportunity to go to French Laundry and eschew the indoors for the outdoor patio, it is one of the great experiences ever in food. I think that might have been the earthquake night.
It was the earthquake night.
Yeah, so at 4 o'clock in the morning, everybody got to see me naked in the parking lot. This is your preparation for the Affinity Vineyard, because here we are in the shed at the Affinity Vineyard having our annual Bacchanal, Carlos's Carnitas party, which is some of the best food you'll ever eat in your life. And the shed is officially my favorite building in Robert Craig to enjoy wine. Oh, there's Rachel just living it up at the laundry. Oh, and there we have Harmesis, Eric Big Langawa at one of our events. Rachel's raising the roof. A pre-dinner shot with Bob Craig.
Where was that?
This is movie night at Robert Craig, where we will send out an invite, and it's always beyond R-rated. So this is probably some horrible scene.
It's a horrible scene.
It's probably some horrible scene from that. Ty and Candy are on tonight. So the Domkeys, welcome aboard, you guys. That was way back in the day before we even had any shade at our holiday parties. Vince Solito, if you and Candy are on. I had to take a picture. Whose birthday is it now? Rachel is saying. And us together. Oh, Rachel.
Our last event.
And this is what I think about Rachel when we were in Miramar Beach. I always think about Rachel heading off because she was ready for the surf hut in Honduras and said, Elton, I'm tired of working 90 hours a week. And I'm like, I know, I was thinking you should be working 100. There's work to do around here, Rachel.
Always.
So with that being said, let's enjoy. This is a shot of the Affinity Vineyard. You can see this soil. It has these big rocks in it, and you can see how old the vines are. And as we start to enjoy the Affinity, this is the view from Bob's front porch down to the shed there where we were partying with Rachel in the earlier photo. And a little shot that remind me which vineyard that is if I'm in my cups and I'm doing one of these shows. So
Great.
So Rachel, why don't you tell me, it's funny that I met you before I met you because I saw this thing on United Airlines when I landed, and they had NBC on, and they were running a loop called Right Turn on people that decide to make a change later in life. And they had this feature on this woman from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, from Amish country, and on her coming to Napa Valley and seeking fame and fortune. So what made you decide to come to Napa Valley, and when did you come to Napa Valley?
Well, so if you didn't see that 4-minute clip it was an NBC Today Show Weekend Edition. The Napa Chamber of Commerce had put out a request from NBC for these stories. And as a chamber member, I got the email and I immediately deleted it. Don't have time for that.
Classic.
And then about a day later, I got an email from Lynn Craig saying, Rachel, I think they're talking about you. Did you want to fill this out? No, I don't have time for that, Lynn. And she says, well, what if I write up your story from what I know, and then you can edit it? So she did, and I was so honored because she absolutely captured. I guess I'd talked a lot about myself already, that in a year she had sort of got my story. Anyways, long story short, it ended up getting submitted. And after 2 phone interviews where I kept telling them I don't have time for this, they ended up saying I was selected. I was one of 4 that was selected. So they came out and did an interview with Bob and Lynn up at the winery. I was in school at Napa Valley College part-time, and so they interviewed there as well and did some wonderful shots of Napa and our vineyards and our winery. So it was very special. And some people saw it on their way to Saudi Arabia, in Europe, because it ended up being on United Airlines on their, anyways.
That's so, I mean, it's just so funny that is on there. I mean, it was either immediately before or immediately after meeting you that I saw that. And what made you want to come to Robert Craig Winery?
I had a friend who had a wonderful restaurant in Pennsylvania and needed a driver, so I volunteered. He actually said, you know, it's going to change your life. And
What's the year? What year are we talking about?
2001.
Wow, a little ways ago.
Yeah, so 2001, we came out for Premier Napa Valley. He had been coming out for 12 years, knew everybody. We had lunch with Mondavi, the Silver Oak people, dinner with others. Came out again, and but in the process, tasting the wines, I discovered very quickly that what I had been tasting of Blue Nun or some of those other small treasures was nothing compared to what could be experienced here. So a year later, I sold pretty much everything and moved out. And my oldest son helped me drive out in a 10-foot trailer, U-Haul trailer.
You probably didn't have one argument with Jeff the entire way out. And knowing you, Rachel, there was no friction on that drive.
No friction, especially since there was no air conditioning, no radio, and it needed gas every 250 miles. But he was on Red Bull, and I read to him almost the whole way to keep us all awake.
He was an early adapter of Red Bull.
But I ended up finding a job with Joseph Phelps that lasted a few months, and then let everybody know I was looking for a small family winery to work with.
Read into the Phelps experience what you may, people.
and then twice in one day, someone told me about Robert Craig hiring, and I knew that was a sign. And I went immediately, bought a bottle of wine, tasted it, loved it, and then kept begging them to hire me, and they finally did. It took a while.
So I met Rachel a year after she was hired, basically, and she built the direct-to-consumer sales up. In the first 2 years she was there, she more than doubled it, and then doubled that. And it was amazing to see your connection with the customers. And I always think about some people that came to the winery, and I said, so have you had Robert Craig wine before? And they're like, oh my God, we got to have some water. I've got to get out of the sun. I've got to be in air conditioning. It was beautiful outside. And I kind of said, well, are you all right? And they said, yeah, we're just really hungover. And they said, of course we've had Robert Craig wine. We were out dancing with the woman that works for, at Robert Craig all night last night. So that's a consumer connection that I'll never forget. They looked terrible. They were so hungover. And I said, have you had Robert Craig? They said, we drank a lot last night, and we were dancing with the woman evidently who works here. I'm like, oh, obviously there could be only one.
Definitely.
Well, let's pause a minute. And what do you guys, Jami, what's your take on Affinity?
Oh my goodness. This wine is absolutely amazing. I have to say, as you said earlier, it's still so youthful, Elton. I can't believe it. I mean, the color, there's, no indication that this is a wine that's, been in bottle now for 5 years and harvested, well, no, yeah, probably been in bottle 5 years. That's awesome. But I think the wine is delightful, Elton. I was saying, like you said, it's so youthful. The fruit is still so vibrant. You kind of expect to start to get some of those more dried fruit flavors, and I'm not really seeing that at all. It's beautiful. The tannins are so well integrated. I'm loving it.
Well, thank you very much, Jami. I think this wine always is one of those wines. I know you came through with the way your last position was at Frog's Leap, who make wines in a similar style, maybe even more early harvest than Robert Craig. But what I love about this style of super classic wine is this acid. So the wine never gets flabby or fat or overripe. This wine to me is so lively. It's like a really beautiful Bordeaux that is just getting into its zone. And, you know, when people are always say to me at tastings, oh, I don't want any Affinity. I just want the Cabernet. I'm like, well, Affinity is Cabernet if you look closely on the label.
78% Cab, 10 Merlot, 6 Petit Verdot, 5 Malbec, and 1 Cab Franc.
That could have been written by me in a cocktail haze while I was trying to get it to the printer, but those could be the varieties. But I have always thought this wine, I always tell people when we taste, don't be afraid to like this one the best, even though it's less expensive, because the quality is incredible. What do you think about this Affinity?
I love it. You know, I'm in a blind tasting group now, so I'm always, you know, curious now when I taste a wine if I can gauge the year, because I can. I would have said that because there's a soft elegance to this that to me was pretty classic in the 13 vintage. I wouldn't guess all the ingredients, all the varietals, but I mean, this is what I love. And what I learned from you, Elton, is that for most of the premium cabs and wines from Napa Valley, don't even think to start before 7 years. You know, that then you're going to give them justice. You're going to experience the true grape and the elegance, the mouthfeel, all how it is on the palate. You will be rewarded. And I'm hoping that you're all seeing this already tonight with this.
Well, I totally agree with that, except when you receive your 17s, because of the hellscape that we're now in, I want you to drink them all and then just order one more round. So other than the waiting 7 years, just immediately consume your 17s and then order the next round and wait 10 years to 7 years on those. So thank you. We forgot to lock the door, so we have people rolling in on us. This isn't exactly a 30 Rock studio here. Well, as we get started before we get started on the next wine, Jami, very quickly, I just want this Affinity to have time to come up in the glass. Jami, why don't I introduce you now to the gang? So Jami has been with us for a little over a year, Jami Castro, and her husband is a locally famous rock musician, Scott Jeffrey Castro. He goes by Jeffrey, but he's sneaky about all that. But if you have a chance to catch his band, you know, on Facebook live streaming, he's done a couple from our tasting room, an amazing performer. But I think despite the fact that Scott is such a badass on the guitar and with the vocals, I think the real talent in the family is sitting here in front of us with Jami Castro. So Jami, what made you want to come work at Robert Craig Winery?
You know, Rachel and I actually have been friends for probably a good 5 or 6 years now. Yeah. We participated in the GEMS program together, so we traveled around the country together every year and got to be close. We actually shared a passion for music, oftentimes when we were in a different...
Hold on a minute. For those that don't know, if you spend over $1,500 with Robert Craig a year, which ain't hard to do, you get an opportunity to join the GEMS where you get perks at some, you know, from Vineyard 29 to Frog's Leap to a number of small independent wineries, family-owned wineries in the valley. The Alley, I think, is in, and a couple in Sonoma. So it's one of the real things. So when Jami says GEMS of Napa Valley is an organization of how many wineries, Jami?
13 actually. So 7 in Napa, 5 in Sonoma, all family owned.
You know, 5 and 7 is 12.
Yeah, you're right.
but I don't know why we don't make any money on this side.
I know.
Okay, so Jami, so you were traveling with GEMS, and you met Rachel doing that.
Exactly, and honestly, I just felt like we had a kinship very early on, and I think that came from both of us having a real passion for the industry, but most importantly, just having a passion for for our customers. Recognizing that it's the building of relationships, it's the connection of people. Wine brings people together, and I think that when I knew how much Rachel cared about her people, how much she cared about all of her club members, and she was actually very kind when she told me that she would actually be okay with me taking over for her. There were a lot of people that she wouldn't be okay with doing that. So I felt like that was a real, that was definitely a big compliment coming from her, because I know what a high standard she held herself to for that reason. So that was really my introduction to Robert Craig. And of course the wines are delicious. I mean, you could never work for a winery where you weren't passionate about the product. And, like you said early on, Elton, I love the balance in these wines. They're mountain wines, they're rich, they're dense, they're delicious, but, the balance that gives them that ageability where you can drink them now or drink them 10 years or 20 years from now, and they're still going to have structure. That's huge. So I feel very blessed. I feel very blessed to be here.
Well, Jami, you're a perfect fit. We saw a lot of candidates, and we had some talent up here, but by far away, there's no replacing Rachel Miller, and that wasn't the idea. We didn't want a replacement. We wanted somebody to be their own person, and you're certainly that. So I'm looking forward to all of our clubbers getting a chance to meet you. Jami, you just got your degree from the Leadership Napa Valley, is that right? Which is a hard-fought victory. So,
it's exciting. Yeah.
So how long was the program?
So Leadership Napa Valley is a community program that's hosted by the mayor. They take 30 students every year. It's a 9-month program. You begin in September, and normally you would graduate in May. My group graduated in late August because of COVID. But it was an amazing program. I met so many wonderful people. I learned a lot of really great leadership skills. I learned a lot of wonderful things about our community, which is really the point behind it. I've lived in Napa for 30 years, but I can't believe the takeaways that I had from it. So again, I was fortunate to get to participate.
Well, congratulations. I'm psyched to be able to do that. I used to come in on every other Friday and say, where the hell's Jami? And then everybody would say, where the hell have you been, Elton? So, I guess it works both ways. Well, let's move on to the next wine. I know I'm personally dying. This Affinity, I just can't get over how well these 13s are showing. And, with Affinity 13, we got some corks from M.A. Silva that were top quality, or we paid top dollar for them, but they took a while. They wanted us to turn over all the boxes to seal. So there's always just a little bit of leakage on the 13 corks, but it's not a quality problem. It was the fact that at our place, when we're producing 3,500 cases of Affinity, we couldn't turn every box over and wait for the cork to seal. If you've ever done bottling, trust me, steer clear of it. Rachel's son, Brent, and I bonded on the bottling line, so we'll be forever close to one another. But in any event, that's why we went to DM Corks after this vintage. But it is the change of label as well, because it was our first, I'm just drinking that down.
Good job.
Because we changed the label because our farming changed so much in 2013. To me, I thought 13 was going to be the best vintage that I experienced in the Napa Valley in my lifetime. But 2016 came along, and now, my goodness, I mean, we've just had a string of great vintages after 2011. 2012, again, I think is overrated, but the wines from 13 are so classic. They have this huge color element, and at the same time, they have the structure. So unlike 94 and 97 and 2004 and 2007, which I think had a lot of color but were low on structure, these 13s have this incredible ability you can see how young they are, even the Zinfandel. So I'll say that with the 13s, to have this be our 7-year library release is really cool. I cannot believe, I feel so old because it seemed like yesterday we were putting these wines in bottle. But we've come to Black Sears Vineyard Zinfandel, and I'm going to hit share screen here and show you guys a little shot of this vineyard. Some of you that have been on before, I'm getting lazy. There's another shot of the famous shed, where if you ever get lucky enough, here's a shot of Black Sears, where on the far end of the picture, just beyond those trees, it goes, it is Larry Turley's Rattlesnake Vineyard, and then right on the other side of that is ours. But you can see how old these vines are and how these bunches, these vines look like they're a mess, but they're also farmed by Pete Richmond of Silverado Farming, one of the very best in the Napa Valley, hence the $25,000 an acre charge. But you can see how every single bunch in the foreground is getting this dappled light. Every cane has the same 22 leaves. The vines are tended. I mean, you could not find somebody in an English garden to tend rose bushes any better than each one of these vines that were planted in 1975, dry farm, biodynamic. You literally could not find anybody to tend rose bushes in the Queen's Palace any better. Here's a great shot of before they're pruned and with the mustard. I hope everybody gets a chance to come and visit us up at the winery and see these vineyards that are on the summit of Howl Mountain. They're not down in the woods. They're not in a swale. This, to me, these super shallow soils up there are just incredible for what they offer the wines. And that's why we use a minimalist winemaking style. Here's my friend Danielle Price. If you ever want some really great wine that's hard to find, go to Maison du Prix, the House of Price. And they have, I mean, oh my gosh, I went over to her house last weekend for an outdoor distance barbecue, and we drank some wines of the gods. You know, 2010 Opus 1 was the least of what went down. But you can see she and Shelley are here. I'm surprised Ashley Sears hasn't run out the door and told us to quit eating their damn grapes because they cost a pretty penny. But it's really just a gorgeous vineyard site. Okay, now I'm going to go stop share.
So what I've always loved about this is, I mean, if you're understanding the concept of dry farmed, older vines, and we're on the this is all on the very ridge top of that mountain. And so, and there's no rivers up there. So you have to imagine how far down those roots go to have to find water. And I've heard that that they can go down 100 feet, and that's just amazing to me. And so to suck that energy and add that all goes into the grape, the complexity, the intensity. And so I feel like for us here at Robert Craig that this Zinfandel is a deeper, darker, more intense showing of a Zinfandel than compared to many in the valley, and especially the Amador Zins. I know I've had to harangue a lot of our Cabernet lovers into at least trying this to see that, you know, and some of you, you know, did fall in love with the Zin. Some of you are still the Bordeaux types. I get it. But it is a unique presentation of Zinfandel for Napa Valley.
Absolutely.
It's a unique presentation of Zin. I mean, really, despite, you know, Hungary and the Balkans claiming that they had this Zinfandel, you know, was originally theirs. I think that the best expression is to be found in California, and there's Ridge, Lytton Springs, and Geyserville. There's, you know, there's the Viale Monterosso, which is one of my all-time favorite wines from over in Sonoma. There's Hain and Tofanelli, a vineyard here in Napa, that are absolutely spectacular. But there is nothing that gives the wine this exotic perfume like Black Sears. And there's no way I mess with Zinfandel. It's thin-skinned. It's difficult to make. We have to use these little T-bins and push it down by hand. It's incredibly labor-intensive. You know, what's your feeling on this Zin, Jami?
Oh my goodness, I have to say, you know, one of the big aha moments for me in wine was actually learning that there are Zinfandels that can be aged. early on in my career, I didn't think that. I thought, oh, certainly you age Bordeaux varietals, but you can't age Zinfandel. But this is just a delicious wine. I mean, I feel like it's coming into its own right now. What I'm really enjoying is certainly there's still great fruit right on the palate, but I'm getting a lot of savory tones as well, which I just love that. I love that when that starts to kind of come out of Zinfandel a little bit more. You get those kind of baking spice characteristics, and I think it's delightful. I'm enjoying it for sure.
It's really pretty, and we're using Rachel and I are using your newfangled the French wine display that has the 2 chill packs that you put in the back, and then the wines stay at this great cellar temperature. And this Zinfandel, if it gets too warm, it tastes like brandy, but it is astounding. And what to me is amazing about these Zins is they start out, you think, oh, this isn't really a very big wine. You can't serve this after Cabernet, but ordinarily I would serve it after trying all the Cabernets. I would go to Zin, even though it's a little bit lighter than the Affinity and Howl Mountain. It has such an unusual fruit profile that I think it does better at the end after Cabernet, because sometimes it can make Cabernet taste a little bit mute. But we're going from south in Napa Valley up to 2,400 feet on Howl Mountain in northeast Napa. And to me, I cannot believe how young and how full this wine is getting. You remember when we first got the 13 Zinfandel, we all thought, for a great vintage, man, this is really a shitty year for black Sears. And we all said, oh my goodness, this wine is not doing it for us. We're like, it's light, what's going on? What's going on with the farming? And then as we got closer to releasing it, as we started finally running out of the 12, it should let me know something, that Rachel and I would have arguments every year that we release this in. She'd be like, this is not right. But this wine takes a while to get into its groove, Yeah. So Jami, tell me, well, let me ask Rachel. Rachel, if you could open a restaurant in the Napa Valley, I know you didn't want me to ask you that, but if you could open a restaurant in the Napa Valley, first of all, I know it would only be 45 minutes for lunch, because Rachel is told every restaurateur in this town is terrified of seeing Rachel darken their door on her lunch hour, because if she doesn't have that check in 45 minutes, it's trouble. But Rachel,
hey, I'd be happy with an hour.
That's right. Tell me, what would your restaurant be?
My perfect restaurant in Napa Valley would be one that has, of course, a bar area besides the normal seated area for guests, and that the person at the bar would be chatty and interested in why I'm there, and
good bartender,
and a place that would also, you reminded me this the other day, as a single person sitting at a bar, sometimes, you've had a glass of wine at work, now you're at the restaurant and you have a glass of wine with dinner, you know that you maybe shouldn't have another glass of wine, so why not ask for a half a glass? And
you know that you shouldn't, but then what happens?
So 99% of the places tell me, oh no, we only sell wine by the glass. You can't have a half a glass. And I don't quite get that. But there are a few, like my favorite restaurant, Zuzu, here in Napa. It's a tapas restaurant. They take care of me. And I've been going there for almost 18 years now. And so it would be a place that welcomes singles and is flexible.
There's not a man in the world that can keep up, Rachel. That's what I've noticed. They're just hanging on by their fingernails after the first couple of weeks. But
we are so lucky. We have such good food and wine here. So, and access to everything local and coffees and everything. So you could open a restaurant, but there's already a lot out there. So I'm just busy now supporting all of them that I can.
So you're saying you would open Zaza and just have a friendlier bartender right next door?
Yeah.
a restaurant. Instead of Zuzu, she call it Zaza,
Aw.
and have a slightly friendlier bartender. She also goes for the quarter pour. Now, Jami, I'm going to ask you a different question. What is your favorite restaurant in the Napa Valley? I know you came to us, to the wine business through the restaurant community, and we're working for an iconic restaurateur for a long time in the Napa Valley.
Gosh, Elton, that's such a difficult question because I love food and wine, so I have lots of favorites. But
Top three.
What? Top three?
Top
Okay.
three.
Top three I can do. Mustard's Grill holds a very special place in my heart. It was definitely my introduction to fine dining and fine food, and that's where I came to fall in love with wine. And it's just so consistently good. Never get a bad meal there. Don Giovanni, also a staple here in the Valley for so many years, and I feel like food is delightful. The ambiance is always fun. It's lively. It's got great energy. Again, and then I might have to say Cole's Chop House is maybe actually number three. I love Cole's. I love just the attention to detail that they do with, every cut of meat that they offer you. They've got an amazing wine list. They're great supporters of ours. So yeah.
You know that your Craig employee badge gives you the right to buy any Robert Craig wine at any wine list at 50% off, Jamie. That's one of your Craig perks.
Believe me, I take advantage of that.
I certainly do.
It's a real treat for sure.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, as we go into the next one, I want you guys to, Jami, you and Rachel, to think about what you think the most important thing is about. I mean, both of you are very different people, but what is amazing is you both have this incredible ability to bring people along for the ride. As I was going through these shots of Rachel Miller on my computer last night, and I didn't even have anything prior to 2012, I was laughing so hard because there was a lot of hijinks. I mean, we were with a lot of our wine club people, Vince and Candy, if you're here, and Patrick and Lisa. Boy, did we ever, we have obviously need to go get some sort of professional help, like the champagne flight to the Betty Ford. But I want you to think about, just in a real way, like what you do to connect most with people. Let's pour this Howl Mountain Cabernet, our final one. Think about it. I'm going to come to you in exactly 1 minute with that. I'm not pouring any of this out. This Zinfandel is astounding. These 13s are astounding me. I have to tell you, I have not had these for a long time.
Really? That is, and this is perfect temperature, sir.
That's right. Let's put these back over in the temperature control room. So 13 Howl Mountain Cabernet. This is one of the last years that the Howl Mountain Cabernet is all from our winery estate vineyard, which is the 10-acre block that most of you have come to on 22 acres at the top of Howl. I always have to give you the visual. So if you're right before you get to this vineyard, there are these rocks in our Howl Mountain vineyard. It is a basalt soil. You can see how small the bunches are, incredibly tiny bunches. This is just taken from my cell phone that really displays why Howl Mountain is called Above the Fog. In particular, as the summer goes on, I think I turned off Silverado Trail a few days ago, and it was 93, almost 94 degrees on Silverado Trail, and I got up to the winery, and on my car thermometer, the outside temperature read 82 degrees. So you get this longer ripening, these tiny berries, and there's a shot of the winery looking down at the fog in the morning. The barrel room, where I always tell them, do not let the interns take any more than 2 barrels at a time on the forklift, because those are like 60 grand a piece in revenue. Here's another shot of the fog. An overhead shot of the winery. Do I have anything else? this is the last couple of days. You can see it was smoky, so smoky down in Napa Valley. You saw my car shot, but you can see blue sky up on Howl Mountain. So I think our grapes are going to end up being okay. I'm knocking on wood for the test, but you can see this was taken literally 2 days ago up there when it was smoky everywhere. But our Howl Mountain has been spared from the wind and some of the worst of it because of the elevation and because of the fact, like I said before, it's windy. So I get so excited. I think about my formative years in wine, and I think about the first time I tasted a done Howl Mountain Cabernet. It was, even at that time, you know, when it was like, gosh, 1995, and I was tasting an 83 or an 84 Dunn Vineyard Cabernet, and I thought, oh my God, this wine is humongous, you know. And Mike Dunn has done great things, and you know I'm not a Brettanomyces fan, so thank you, Mike, for taking that out of the wine. But Howl Mountain has always been my touchstone, and it's been the thing that to me unites me with the customers and with the people that come to see us at Robert Craig. So this wine is an expression of, in some ways, of who I am and my life's journey. But to you and Rachel now, I say, you know, Rachel, you first. What has connected you to the customers at Robert Craig? Because you certainly grew the people that have connected with us, and Jami's continuing, and Christian in that fashion.
Well, what I love the most were the person-to-person contact, whether here in the tasting room, one of our events on the mountain, or at the Affinity Vineyard. But probably the most was being on the road and, you know, visiting all of you in your homes, at your favorite restaurants, at some wine events, getting to know you in a more personal way that way. And then that just carries over into the next phone conversation, the next email. And so the connection was always the most. And then especially if I could visualize, sometimes when I actually would meet you and the person on the phone was not the same visual, you know, it took me a while to adjust, but you know, it's the connection and willing to pick up the phone, willing to over the last couple of years, we were working harder at making that personal connection, because that's where, you know, loyalty, familiarity, comfortability of being able to talk about any of the questions of wine or whatever that come up, you feel like you can ask those questions without, well, maybe I would say don't be stupid sometimes, but really I said that with love. And but yeah, it's that connection, and you know, they're realizing that there's, you know, close to 500 wineries in Napa. How do we be different? And for me, it was always like, always having this beautiful, elegant wine, always there, always being slightly irreverent, not too rigid on particulars, and always willing to laugh and share a glass.
Well,
that's a good one. That's good, Rachel. I like it.
Very well said. And if the dryers are on, because Troy, I know you guys have been, off and on these. If you're on right now, I just want to say that I would like my robe fluffed to 80 degrees Fahrenheit for 5 minutes in the dryer before I arrive next time, before heading to the local wine bar and annihilating myself before hosting a bunch of guests at your dinner again.
He did that.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So, but so many of you that are on here currently have hosted us in your homes and at your favorite restaurants.
Yes.
And I think in particular now, I think of like the Leahys and others, and Jason Guerrero and all of you guys that are, so many of you that have sent me these wonderful emails, not only after doing this, but just to check on us and see how we're doing. And I'm telling you, I thought I might be filming this from the rail of the Golden Gate Bridge a couple of days ago with a 7-Eleven sandwich in one hand and a bottle of vodka in the other. because it has been a tough harvest. I mean, it has been a year that is indescribable, and we've all experienced something in 2020. But I mean, the locusts are in next. But I do this, and all I can say is how grateful I am to what Rachel says, and that leads me to you, Jami. Jami, what would you say is, you know, the number one thing that you would do in making a connection for people in Robert Craig Winery, or just the connection in wine?
You know, I would absolutely agree with everything Rachel said, and I would also say that I think it's about being genuine. It's about being real. It's about breaking down any level of pretension. You know, letting any level of wine consumer ask questions, whether, you know, they're novices or they're connoisseurs, and being able to, you know, like I said, just be real throughout the process. Find those common grounds, those break down the barriers. Like that's what it's about for me. I've had so many, you know, this year working with Robert Craig has been amazing. I haven't gotten to experience quite the same experiences that you guys talk about, just because, you know, COVID's kind of limited our events and limited us being able to do things off site. But I've had so many wonderful conversations over the phone with people. Like I actually truly feel like I have friends in other states. And I know, Rachel, I know that you feel that way too. I know that, you know, your longevity there and just your connection with people was very real and very genuine. So yeah, I think that's that's the difference. That's what makes it or breaks it. People know if you're being real.
Agreed.
I just want to say the comment on that got it started for me, and I feel has permeated Robert Craig the whole way through, and that is Bob and Lynn have always been totally real, totally non-pretentious. I lived for every day.
Lynn always acts like the queen, though.
No,
Lynn, I know she's on.
No, I lived every day for getting a laugh out of Lynn. That was like, I did all right today. I got a laugh out of Lynn, and or Bob rolling his eyes. You know, it was one of those things. So it's been something that has come through us and permeated us all these years, is the blessing of them.
There is no doubt that the spirit of the Craigs pervades this business to this very day, and Lynn is still involved with us. And Lynn, if you're on, we love you so much. We're thinking about you there in Arizona, where hopefully it is 120 degrees and impossible to go outside, because I don't want to hear about anybody having better weather than this smoke fest we're experiencing in downtown Napa right now. Well, I have to say that, Rachel, working with you was amazing. And immediately after starting, went through a flood. I mean, it was wild what we had to deal with. And it was, at times, it was just us and the Craigs, and it was all hands on deck at all time. And now, Jami, you've come in the middle of the pandemic and the fires. It's the test. And same with you, Kristen. It's great to have you guys on. And as I drink this wine, I always think that the wine always brings me back. You know, I got up on the mountain and I tasted the lots, and thank God they're not smoke tainted. The microferments have come back all positive, which is just great. Negatives for smoke taint. So the grapes are having to be in a good place. And I think about the people that we've had here and we continue to have, and it's just so lucky. And to all of you that are on with us, I mean, this 13 Howl Mountain, to me, you could put it in a brown bag next to Colgan, Screaming Eagle, whatever you want from the Napa Valley, Harlan, Bond, and this wine does not come up short. That is when Robert Craig, our Howl Mountain wine, I truly feel is one of the AAA collectibles of the entire Napa Valley. very similar to Rick Foreman's wine or Philip Togney before they got the 100-point score in this self-same vintage and then doubled their price. I know I keep harping on that, but it's still annoying to me. If anybody's at Togney, I still buy it, but I can't show my face at the winery anymore after that email. But thank you all for coming on this journey with us. And Christian, I know we have a question in there.
We do. Russ wanted to know, you touched on how we're faring on Howl Mountain with the fires, but what about the Maya Thomas range where we we own the Veeder property, but then also we have Spring Mountain and Diamond Mountain. Do you have any idea how those are doing?
Yes. So I literally in the office just tasted through the micro ferment lots. The decision is if the wine is not great, if it has glycol or 4-methyl glycol, the two big smoke taint molecules present above 2.4 micrograms a liter, then you simply don't make the wine. And, of course, at Robert Craig, we're underinsured because insurance rates have gone crazy. So it's a painful decision, but you cannot spend the money to harvest the fruit, stick it in to new barrels, ruin all those, then bottle it if you're going to have wine that cannot make the cut. So with Mount Veeder, with Spring Mountain, with Affinity, the tests have all come back in, and they're all thankfully completely negative for smoke taint. But harvest is still a week away, and fortunately, there's super thick, hardcore smoke that we experienced at the start of the fires. We have smoke in Napa, but it's not like my car scene that I showed you from Sausalito. My God, you don't want to be in San Francisco or Sausalito right now.
No, it was like that.
Yeah. So it really is. We are going to see, but right now it looks like the fruit was in the right place as opposed to 28, or 2017. Where the wind was wrong and eradicated Mount Veeder, but on Howl Mountain we were totally clear, thank goodness, and we escaped 17 with only a $1 million loss. So this is going to be a year that we, ordinarily ETS, the lab that does this, they have about 1,800, 1,900 tests that they're performing at any time during harvest. And this year they have over 200,000 tests that they're trying to get done because people are worried about insurance. So to me, what I can promise you is that we're not going to release any smoky wine at Robert Craig. So that's just like straight up no way. But we'll see what happens. I mean, it is going to be probably a little bit of both. We're going to do some insurance, but so far, knock on this coffee table here, we have been extremely lucky, and we have all the lots in here that we just tasted through, and as Kirsten can tell you and Jami, that we have not had any smoke taint, and probably it's because most of our stuff is in windy, high elevation places. Anything else? I see it.
Yeah, some people like to know what Rachel's been doing with herself since she left Craig. Remember, this is a family show, Rachel.
I've been working part-time with Dariush Winery. Got connected there. Dan DiPolo is a good friend of Elton's, and so I was able to pick up some hours there. I'm waiting for the perfect time to go to Honduras. Obviously, I haven't been able to go at all this year because of COVID, and they're on complete lockdown there. I do have a window of getting there in November for a visit, but I've now rented my house and someone's there and loving it so much they hope I don't move down. But
Rachel,
we'll
the
see.
time for charity is gone. Get them out now once they start liking it too much.
I know. So, I mean, I've had such a wonderful life here in Napa in the last 17, 18 years, and it's hard to let go, actually. The wine, the food, and the happiest people in the world that I've ever met. are here in Napa, and that's a hard one to let go of, but there will be a segue soon.
Well, a lot of people have said that they love you very much, and we all love you too. So
Lots of love.
lots of love.
As we finish up, is there anything else on the Q&A? Is that so it's coming in, love for Rachel?
Like nothing serious about the wine?
When Jami is here for 5 more years, you guys are going to forget all about Rachel. There'll be no more Rachel.
They don't ever have to forget about Rachel.
Exactly. I only say that because I love her, and she was hazing me about the Affinity Vineyard immediately prior to starting this.
It's all information.
The only other real technical question that I received is, why are the tannins so different in the Infinity from the Affinity to Howl Mountain?
Well, obviously, the Affinity Vineyard is hillside and Howl Mountain is at 2,400 feet. Affinity is at 400 feet. So, I mean, Howl Mountain has smaller berries, thicker skins, but even though there's more tannin technically in Howl Mountain, sometimes the tannins appear more silken because there is a much longer hang time on the fruit, more lignification. There's also the ability for the fruit. Lignification is the browning of the seed and the stem on the grapes, which makes these tannins that are very soft and round. So even though they're humongous, the tannins appear very supple on the wine. So even though Howl Mountain sometimes has a larger tannin count per liter than the Affinity, the tannins appear more supple. I think both the wines were showing amazing to me. They're both showing that, man, they have a long way to go. At 7 years, they're just, I mean, they taste like their current release wines. And so I'm just very excited about how these wines are doing. And in the future, I'm looking forward to showing the wines at the 7 and 10 year mark when they've all been in a DM cork, our current closure, that is a natural cork that's been exploded. It constantly has 5 bar of pressure guaranteed for 30 years on the outside of the glass, so that all the wines will have a perfect closure, and we don't have to worry about that being a variable in the future when we examine our wines. But there's not enough time. I did this discussion flow for Jami and Rachel, where I had all these questions. We would do all this cool stuff, but the hour goes quickly. And Rachel, is there anything you would like to say to the folks before we take off?
No. Yes. What I want to say is that please treasure this outfit here and the wines. And I've never had such a great family experience and a touch through all layers of winemaking, moving the wine out to the public, both on the wholesale and the direct-to-consumer side, amongst these precious people here. And it's something I treasure and will forever. There's nothing, I don't think there's anything like it out there. We're the only ones here.
Love you, Rachel. And Jami, what about you, the newbie?
Well, honestly, I'd just like to say, Rachel, it was so much fun getting to participate in this with you today. I miss you too. But as far as anything that I'd like to say to our customers, just thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your consistent support. Thank you for your kind emails. Thank you for those connections that we've had on the phone. I've noticed that when I do talk to people over the last few months, our conversations seem to last a little longer. I think it's because we're all so starved for maybe some human interaction. But just thank you. I'm really thrilled to be here. Love the wines, love the people, and we love you guys right back. So cheers.
I just want to, the last thing I just want to say is I was thrilled when Jami applied for the job, and it was just like, now I can go. Now I can go.
I don't know who vandalized your car, Jami. But it was, oh, Rachel's never going anywhere. She's still part of the family. And it's so, the one thing that's constant at Robert Craig is we're always going to have tremendous people that come here, gain knowledge, gain skills. They might go somewhere else, and then we talk nasty about them for a couple of weeks, but that is the maximum. But thank you to everybody who came in to join us. I mean, it is a galactic storm going on right now for a small winery in the Napa Valley, and everybody that's on here. Thank you. I know Petra and Jay, I think, are on as well. I forgot to mention our Roosevelt Hotel finest. We love you guys. But all I can say is it's been a great time. I hope you have an awesome Friday night. Staring at our taste room wall is not always the most exciting thing to do on a Friday evening, but these wines, I truly feel, are some of the greatest wines produced on the planet Earth. The only thing we take seriously here is the production of these wines and the farming in the vineyards. And the great people that we have. Jami, it is so awesome to see Rachel pass the baton, and to you as well, Christian, and all the people here, to Jason and the guys in winemaking. Casey is up at the winery working his rear end off right now. He's once again on the great weight loss plan that is production. You notice all the winemakers in Napa Valley, unless they don't do a lot, are very skinny people because there's a lot of lifting and cleaning and hauling and hose dragging. But thanks very much, everybody. It's great to see you. Please shoot me a text or whatever. So at some point, we're going to have an after party on this thing because there's not enough time for Rachel to visit with anybody. But I hope this is a sign for you to get back in touch with Rach and find out what she's doing pre-Honduras. I knew she wouldn't go there immediately because she likes the bar at Zuzu too much. You can just be a little friendlier.
And some wine.
That's right. And we're going to get some more. So now we're going to light it on fire. We have some Miami people coming over, but thank you all. Have a great weekend. Here's to the memory of everybody from 9/11, the first responders. And it's a time for reflection, but it's also a time for us to have a glass of wine with family and loved ones. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.